Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is breathing fire as she gets called out by moderate Democrats. A defund the police left-wing radical calls 911 to get help from the police. Plus, Barack Obama plays the race card in his latest book. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is the 13-Minute News Hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Friday. Hope you had a great week. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because she is not the most popular person among Democrats right now because she and Ilhan, Omar, and Rashida Tlaib, they are getting blamed for the poor showing because of their rhetoric and policies. Other Democrats are blaming them for the poor showing that they had in the 2020 elections. Now, if you recall, there was supposed to be this blue wave that would sweep across America. Not only would it wipe out President Trump, but it would take the Senate and the House as well. Big gains were expected in the House of Representatives. Anywhere from 15 to 20 additional seats the Democrats were supposed to pick up. That never happened at all. In fact, Republicans have now gained 6 seats themselves, and there's more to come. There's still elections being contested. That number could go up. So, of course, those results haven't sat well with the other Democrats at all, and they are pointing the finger right at AOC. Well, the prima donna of the Bronx isn't taking it very well, and here's the story. Just hours after the mainstream media has anointed Joe Biden as president-elect, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez seems to be having some type of meltdown. With Trump on his way out of office, AOC has turned her ire against a new cause, Democrats that aren't moving far enough to the left. Perhaps indifferent about the fact that the presidential election seems to have swung in her favor since there was no blue wave, AOC said this weekend that Democrats who lost House seats relied too heavily on outdated Democrat National Committee campaign tactics, according to Fox News. She called those who lost seats sitting ducks and refuted the claim that some Democrats thought the ideas of defunding the police and the Green New Deal cost moderates their seats and made the presidential race extremely close. Well, those comments from the Democrats certainly had an impact, and they were not afraid to speak out, as we've seen all week long. James Clyburn, Democrat, in an interview with HBO, had this to say about Democrat losses.
We were not able to discipline ourselves according to voter sentiment.
So what he means there is not just voter sentiment in general, but voter sentiment in particular districts. AOC and Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan, Omar, they are in these far left districts. They could be as radical as they want, and they're going to get reelected. It doesn't even matter. That's why they were elected in the first place, because they're far left radicals. That doesn't play in other districts. And here's more from Clyburn.
We keep making that mistake, this foolishness about you got to be this progressive or that progressive. That phrase, defund the police, cost Jamie Harrison tremendously.
He's absolutely right. Of course, the American people don't support this. They don't support defund the police or the Green New Deal or Medicare for all. Yet AOC keeps pushing and pushing, and now more Democrats are pushing back. Moderate Democrat Senator Joe Manchin, he went on Twitter, he tweeted this: "Defund the police, defund my butt. I'm a proud West Virginia Democrat. We are the party of working men and women. We want to protect Americans' jobs and healthcare. We do not have some crazy socialist agenda, and we do not believe in defunding the police." Some crazy socialist agenda. That's just awesome. And in that tweet, he also linked to a news story in which he's quoted saying he does not favor packing the court or does not favor ending the filibuster. All of these things that surely went up AOC's spine, especially when he talked about a crazy socialist agenda and not supporting defunding the police. So she went on Twitter. She tweeted this: "Yep, that's it. No words, just a giant stink eye." But it wasn't, she doesn't leave this or limit this to Joe Manchin. In this big Democrat meeting where they talked about the election results and what to do, Representative Jeffries said, Do we want to govern or do we want to be internet celebrities? Well, AOC didn't like that one at all, and she fired back with this. Pretty astounding that some Democrats don't believe it's possible to govern, be politically popular, and command formidable bully pulpits at the same time. But it actually explains a lot about how we got here. So, not a very good week for AOC. She's taking the heat from other Democrats, and you can tell for someone who's used to being the prima donna that it's not sitting well at all. All right, so next, let's talk about some other left-wing radicals. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell. We're making our push to 150,000 members, and we could do it with your help. All right, let's talk about this defund the police movement, because as they push this, the American people reject it, but the left keeps pushing it, and it reveals two things. It reveals the hypocrisy, and it reveals some fallout. So we're going to talk about the hypocrisy first, because there's this left-wing radical in Portland adamant about defunding the police. She actually called 911 to get help from the police. And here's the story. Portland City Commissioner who campaigned to defund the police called 911 last week on a Lyft driver who refused to close his window. Joanna Hardesty, who serves as Portland City Commissioner and has been a prominent voice advocating for defunding the police department in the wake of calls for police reform, has claimed that most 911 calls don't involve a real emergency, the Oregonian reported. So, she wants to defund the police and complains about frivolous 911 calls, but check out what happened to her. The confrontation over the Lyft ride began with confusion between Hardesty and the Lyft driver about the pickup point, about which Hardesty expressed her frustration once she entered the vehicle. Shortly afterwards, she demanded that the driver roll up his windows, two of which were cracked to allow circulation as recommended by Lyft's new safety rules for the coronavirus pandemic. The driver explained this to Hardesty and rolled the windows up slightly, at which she became ballistic, according to the driver, and asked that the windows be closed completely. So the driver had enough. He realized this wasn't going to work out, so he took her to a gas station, canceled the ride, and told her to get another ride. She refused to leave the vehicle. She would not get out of his car, so he threatened to call the police. So she said, well, I'm going to one-up you. I'm going to call 911 myself. So she's talking to the dispatcher, and it is great to listen to because this guy reminds her that no actual crime has been committed. The Lyft driver hasn't done anything wrong. And she says, well, I'm not getting out of here. This is a defund the police person, anti-911, using it to get help from the police. Then on the fallout side, we have Minneapolis, who was one of the trailblazing city councils to get rid of their police altogether. Defund the police, get rid of them. Morale sank. People are leaving like crazy. Guess what? Crime is going up and they can't handle it. So now they want to reach out to other jurisdictions, other police forces, law enforcement agencies to get help putting the crime down because they don't have enough police officers. Give me a break. Hypocrisy and fallout, all from these defund the police left-wing radicals. So next, let's talk about Barack Obama, because he's got yet another memoir out, because I know we've all been waiting for that. And guess what he does? Yep, he plays the race card. Imagine that. And here's some excerpts from CNN. It was as if my very presence in the White House had triggered a deep-seated panic, a sense that the natural order had been disrupted, Obama writes, which is exactly what Donald Trump understood when he started peddling assertions that I had not been born in the United States and was thus an illegitimate president. For millions of Americans spooked by a black man in the White House, he promised an elixir for their racial anxiety. This is unreal. Folks, as I mentioned before, Barack Obama did more to hurt race relations than any president I have ever seen. He never missed an opportunity to incite racial conflict. Then President Trump comes around, and as we saw from these election results, he got a higher percentage of the black vote than any Republican in the last 60 years. Yet President Trump and his supporters, they're the racists? Give me a break. And here's more from Obama. But some of his most thoughtful examination comes at the expense of the party that opposed him and how it evolved during his 8 years in office, starting with the elevation of Sarah Palin to the Republican presidential ticket in 2008. Through Palin, it seemed as if the dark spirits that had long been lurking on the edges of the modern Republican Party, xenophobia, anti-intellectualism, paranoid conspiracy theories, and antipathy toward black and brown folks, were finding their way to center stage, Obama writes. Oh my gosh, this is absolutely outrageous. How can he claim to be this uniter when he divides at every opportunity? And we've seen example after example of this during his presidency. Whether it was his professor friend that the police showed up because neighbors thought that this guy was breaking into a home. They were actually trying to help him, but Obama made that a race issue. Or Michael Brown or Trayvon Martin. Instance after instance, Obama tries to incite racial tension rather than bring people together, and he continues to do it. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, she blasted Obama with this great tweet. What a ridiculous message. Obama had 8 years, including 2 with full control of Congress. He sent our jobs to China, left our healthcare system in disarray, our foreign policy in shambles, and our people divided. Instead of blaming Trump, Obama should consider what led to 2016. Nice. Awesome comments by Governor Kristi Noem. Those were perfect. And Obama's book, whatever. But it does make a great segue, since it's Friday the 13th, actually, to ask Obama, AOC, and others, do you have a relaxed brain?
I got what you call, a relaxed brain.
All right, first, I've got to talk about Mayor Ted Wheeler, the mayor of Portland. And I actually hope that I can get through today's relaxed brain because there's some nutty stuff out there. This guy, Ted Wheeler, remember him? This is Portland, folks. Portland, who had months and months of nonstop riots and protests. Months. It just went on and on and on. It keeps going on. This guy, this Democrat, remember, he went down there and instead of cracking down, wanted to have a little listening session with Antifa. He had to leave because he was getting booed and objects thrown at him. This guy was reelected this month. He was reelected. So what do you think his first action was? Was he going to crack down on Antifa once and for all? Was he going to impose some law and order? Say, we can't have rioting and looting? Just lay down the law? Not exactly. The language of the documents that guide the city should reflect our community. Today, Council authorized the city auditor to remove feminine and masculine terms from the city charter. This important step will help make our documents more inclusive of all gender identities. What can you even say? Nonstop riots and looting, but we have to make our city documents inclusive to all gender identities. That's his priority. Unreal. All right, so we talked about AOC. How about some Rashida Tlaib? Because she got on Twitter, posted a gem, but first I have to put up this one. Detroit Police Chief James Craig addressed the question as to why his department treated the vote challengers at TCF Center differently than Detroit Will Breathe protesters. So basically, this police chief had to address why he was treating peaceful protesters on these election results differently than the BLM mob. So Rashida Tlaib responded to that tweet with this. Translation: Black Lives Matter movement is considered not peaceful because they protest cops that are not being held accountable for violence, while fascist window bangers are AOK threatening the democratic process of counting votes. Oh my gosh. The reason BLM protesters are being cracked down is because they weren't peaceful, because they were hurting people. People were actually killed. There was violence, destruction, mayhem. That is why. These other people are just shouting. Give me a break. The fact that she can't see the difference between actual violence and peaceful protesting, actual peaceful protesting, is just amazing. And that's why it's so hard to get through to these left-wing radicals. All right, how about some in-depth reporting from the Babylon Bee? We've got Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York, who is blasting President Trump for this news that a vaccine is coming out. There's a big issue already we can get into with Pfizer for announcing their breakthrough vaccine, 90% effective after the election. But even though it's coming, Andrew Cuomo blasts it. Here's a headline from the Babylon Bee. Cuomo develops vaccine that makes people immune to Trump's vaccine. That's about right. That sounds about right. These people blast President Trump, say we need this vaccine. He has Operation Warp Speed, actually works with Pfizer. They get it developed. They'll have it. Pfizer holds that announcement. It probably would have cruised to re-election had this come out just a week before. But Cuomo blasts it. I love that headline. And then for all you Marvel comic fans out there, with this Democrats' call for unity after nonstop 4 years of blasting President Trump, calling Trump supporters racist, xenophobes, we have this headline from the Babylon Bee. After wiping out half the universe, Thanos calls for unity. So, again, you got to be a Marvel comic fan, but that one's just so classic, and it sums up the Democrats in general. They will blast and blast, call you racist, xenophobic, you name it, but when they get their chance at control, now let's all come together. Let's put that aside. Let's work together, which means we're going to advance our agenda, and you guys be quiet. We're not going to listen to you. That's what they're talking about. Folks, that's our show for today. Please tune in tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central Time, for the Saturday live stream. And until then, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. And we'll see you on Saturday. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.